All right, we're holding in the Gemara Daf Ayin Hey Amid Bey 75b2 in the Art Scroll. Complicated, very complicated technical Gemara. Hey Bruce, just getting started. Ariel and Shuki won't make it this week, but we'll have a short class. It's a technical Gemara, so we'll try to get through it. It's on page 75b2 in the Art Scroll. So we're trying to figure out the laws of both forbidden relationships of incest or type, and its punishment. So we've already established that basically a mother-in-law or a mother's mother-in-law, according to most opinions, daughters and daughters-in-law. Daughters, your daughter, your wife's daughter. The punishment is your father-in-law's mother. These are all punishable. It's forbidden and punishable if done intentionally by the death of burning. Now, we've established already in many months ago that there's an argument of which is a more severe punishment, stoning or burning. Those are the two. Most opinions, the conclusion is mostly that stoning is the most severe of the four. But there are opinions that burning is also possibly more severe than stoning. Choking and beheading are definitely less. And then there's an argument which is the least. Okay, but we're not going to touch on the second two. We're talking about the top two, which is the stoning and the burning. And again, most opinions, stoning is more severe. Now the question's like this. We have a clear verse. We have the Mishnah that teaches us that a wife, a woman and her mother, meaning your mother-in-law, if you have relations with your mother-in-law, then the death penalty is burning. Your mother-in-law, your mother-in-law's mother, your father-in-law's mother, your wife's daughter, your wife's daughter's daughter, your son's daughter, etc., are all punishable by burning. We've learned that from the pasuk. We have a hekesh. We compare the verses together, and we package it together in a package that the conclusion is the punishment is burning. The thing is that we had a statement before that said that Rashi taught us is that there's three types of forbidden, what we would call forbidden daughters to a person. One is, of course, the classic would be if you are married to your wife and you and your wife have a daughter, she's forbidden to you and punishable by burning. Her children, meaning her daughters, or you have a son and his daughters, punishable by burning. Then you have a case which is a limud. Now this is kind of a chiddush from the pasuk, where you have no biological relationship with the girl in question, but your relationship to her is by marrying her mother. Right? If you marry a woman who comes into the relationship, brings into the relationship a daughter, that daughter is forbidden to the husband and punishable by burning. So that we have clear. Bas benov es bas bita. It says her daughter, her granddaughter are all forbidden to you, meaning hers that she brings into the relationship. Now the question is, what about your own daughters, but who are not your wife's daughters, meaning illegitimate children? You have relations with a woman, whether it's by force or consensual, but the Rashi focuses on a rape, on anusim, someone who rapes a woman, has a daughter via that rape. She is forbidden to you, the daughter from the rape is forbidden to you by the punishment of burning. So we package that all together. That's the conclusion. But what we did do in that statement is compare the relationships that come from the wife, like her daughters, to the relationships that he brings, which is by rape. Again, the reason why the Rashi focuses on rape by what you would call illegitimate children is because, meaning out of wedlock, is because it's not so simple. If a man and woman live together as boyfriend and girlfriend and have a child, halachically it could skimmer on questions if that's a marriage or not, because one of the ways of marriage is relationship. So if they at any point have relations with each other and with intention of a unity beyond just relationship, so then it's a question if that would be some sort of skimmering on marriage, right? So therefore, the Rashi is easier to say rape, where the woman has no consent at all to this to the relationship, and therefore the child is definitely out of wedlock. Okay. Now the question is, what we want to know is, we don't have a verse to teach us about a person's own grandmother. meaning to say a person's mother is forbidden from Torah. But what about a person's grandmother, meaning your mother's mother, your own mother's mother? Not only don't we have a verse, it's not biblically forbidden. It's considered a shnia, which is rabbinic. And halachically, a shnia is not the same. Is if a person's even technically can marry a shnia. I mean, you're not allowed to marry a shnia, but there is, according to some opinions, if you do marry someone who's forbidden to you as a second means that what's forbidden to you, and then what a relation to the person that's forbidden to you. There's opinions that the marriage is holds at some, according to some sort of levels. So as strange as it sounds, a person's biological grandmother, mother of his mother, is not forbidden according to the Torah. Rabbinic, yes. Now the question is, the Gemara is going to challenge why, meaning not logically why. We're asking verses. If we're already bundling together to compare a mother and his relationships, meaning children he has out of wedlock via rape, and her children that she brings in, and we say that we compare the males to the females, we said on the top of page 75. Why don't we also compare that, just like if your wife's mother is forbidden to you, and your wife's mother's mother is forbidden to you, why isn't your mother's mother forbidden to you? So basically, it's a question of bundling together the verses and including, why don't we include in that your actual biological grandmother? And the conclusion is going to be that we don't. We have an argument why not, and this is where it gets technical. The Gemara says like this again, 75b2. So the Gemara says this: Imahi aim ima surah. If you want to compare all the relationships that your wife brings in, meaning her mother, you have no blood relationship with your wife's mother, but she forbids your mother. Hypothetically, a person could choose between a woman and her mother. And if you choose the daughter, you're forbidden to have relations with the mother. If you choose the mother, you're forbidden to have relations with the daughter, to be married or have relations with the daughter, right? So the question is, and we say, imahi, if your wife, aim ima asura, she brings in, not only does she forbid her mother, but her mother's mother is forbidden to you and punishable by burning. So why not? Why don't we bundle it together to learn Afu, his own relations, like his own daughter? We compare that his own daughter is punishable by burning, to compare it to her daughter. So Afu, let his grandmother, means his mother's mother, be forbidden to him biblically, and she's not biblically. So Amar Abai says the reason is because we can't bundle this case together, because we have a clear verse to teach us that there's an exception. What's the verse? Amar Abai, Amar Kra, that we have a verse that says, Imchahi, when the Torah says that your mother's forbidden to you. I'll read the whole verse. The verse says, Ervas Isha Ubita Loisegale. Sorry, it says Dalid. It says, Ervas Avicha, Ervas Imcha Loisegale. Imchahi. It says you're not allowed to have relations with the erva, with the relation of your mother or your father. She's your mother, it says. The verse says she's your mother. But the verse says, Imchahi, she's your mother. From Abaya says the word he comes to teach us that the verse is coming to exclude, or to be specific, that only your mother, because she's your mother, she's forbidden to you, but not your mother's mother. Again, it's not allowed, but we're talking about biblical, and we're talking about death penalty. You don't get the death penalty. As if we don't, it's not, the Torah is not asking for us for our agreement. I'm saying that's the halacha. That's Abai's opinion. So Abai says clearly there's a pasuk. The pasuk comes to exclude a grandmother by saying imchahi, she's your mother, means only she's your mother, but that would exclude your grandmother. Rava says no. Rava wants to learn it based on more of a complicated setup of how we would compare things, and by things not being 100% comparable, breaks down the whole house of comparison. Meaning to say, Rava comes to teach us that when you want to compare laws in Torah, what's important about this Gemara is as hard as it is, and that's why the Rashis are very long, is this Gemara teaches us the building, the structure of the laws of Torah. And you can't just start comparing things if things don't fall exactly into place, or if there's reason to believe that there's an exception based on the logical setup of the situation. And we'll see. The main point is that the odd piece in our situation here is a person who has relations with his own mother is punishable by stoning. Once she's punishable by stoning, not by burning, means your mother-in-law is punishable by burning. Your mother is by stoning. So you can't, so it's already complicated to group together your mother-in-law and her and your wife's daughters and all that is in the category of burning when your mother is in the category of stoning. Once she's in the category of stoning, it's hard to say that therefore we're going to also extend your grandmother, your mother's mother, to compare it to your wife's grandmother because the punishment's different. The punishment's burning, the punishment's stoning. Now the question is what's more severe? If stoning is less severe, so it's clear why you can't learn the grandmother. If already the mother gets a less severe punishment than the grandmother or the mother of your wife, which is burning, if burning it would be more severe. So already we know that the mother is less severe, so we can't add in the grandmother. But even if you can say the stoning is more severe, but you already it's hard to separate the mother's mother from the mother to throw it into the grandmother of the wife to add burning to it. This is where Rava gets complicated. And let's see it inside. We'll do as best as we can. We won't do the Rashis. We'll try to cover as much ground in the Gemara as possible and understand it the best we can. Rava says like this: Bein leman da Amar dan mina mina. Whether according to the opinion that says whenever you want to group something together, done means to judge something together, it must be exact, right? So already we're not exact because the mother is stoning and the grandmother, your wife's grandmother or your wife's mother is burning, so you can't group the mother and the mother-in-law together already in one group because if you're judging, you have to judge everything, and we can't judge everything. So whether the opinion of don mino mina or bein lemandamra or another opinion who says don mina v'ukabasra, that we only have to learn when we put things together. If we have a verse that teaches us about another case, we only have to learn the things that we're trying to learn, but the other things, basra, we could go according to. It means it's okay to have the mother punishable by stoning and the grandmother to learn from the wife's grandmother, even though it complicates kind of the exactness of the study, because it doesn't have to be exact. The actual literal translation is, or according to the one who says, derive from it, but place the derivative in its own context. I mean, it could be in its own context, it doesn't have to be exact. Lo yasya, we can't learn the grandmother, your mother's mother from your wife's mother's mother, from your wife's grandmother. Why? So Rav explains. Leman damar mina mina, you have to do exact. So what are you going to say? If your wife, mima, her mother's mother, asura is forbidden to you. So what do you want to say? Afu, so to your mother's mother, meaning your husband, the man's mother's mother. Nami should also be mima asura, should be forbidden to him. Umina, and what's the case by her that you want to learn exact? Mahi bisrefa, just like your wife's grandmother, if you have relations with her, we're holding page 75b3, would be punishable by burning. Afu, so too, your wife, your grandmother, I mean your mother's mother, Nami bisrefa, should be punished by burning. So Lamanda Amr, according to the opinion, so that would be the theory of what we would say. We would say, we have to do exact. So what's the exact? The exact is your mother's mother, your wife's mother's mother is forbidden to you. So your mother's mother should be forbidden to you also. Means if Rava doesn't learn the verse, imchahi. So if there's no verse to teach us that we're excluding the grandmother, Abai makes it easy. There's a verse that says your mother's mother is not forbidden to you, and the story. Rava says we don't have to go there, but we have to use a logic of system to exclude your mother's mother. So what's the logical system? What do you want to say? You want to say that we're going to compare your wife's mother's mother to your mother's mother. But then you have to compare the punishment if it's exact, right? What would the punishment be? The punishment would be burning. So your mother's mother would be, if you have relations with her and she does it willingly as well, you both would be burnt, right? Afu nami b'sreifa. So the mandam is sreifa chamura. If you want to say burning is a more severe punishment, so we can't, then the person would say, no, you can't do that. Ikla mifrach. Malihi shekain ima b'sreifa temer behushi ima b'skila. See, what are you going to say? But your wife, if you have relations with your wife's mother, it's burning. So therefore, it's logical to say that if your wife's mother's forbidden to you, the punishment should also be burning. But if your mother, your own mother, is punishable by stoning, you want to learn from your wife's grandmother to do a more severe punishment, doesn't make sense. The whole relationship you have with your grandmother is your mother. And if your mother, which is more biologically related to you, right, than your grandmother, is punishable by a lesser punishment of stoning, so how could you have a punishment of burning? And because you must learn exact, it has to be burning. Otherwise, we don't know. The only way we know that you should punish the grandmother at all is from your wife's grandmother, and your wife's grandmother is burning, and it has to be an exact match. So therefore, you can't include to study your mother's mother. Therefore, according to Rava, you would say if the punishment is stoning, there's no way to teach burning by the grandmother. It doesn't make sense. There's no logic. Okay. So again, try to hold. I hope I'm going to try to explain this as clear as possible. It's a difficult Gemara. Any questions, let me know. But we're going to try to get through this technicality. So number one is if the punishment of stoning is less severe, so there's no reason to give a more severe punishment for the grandmother than the mother. How could you say imay beskila? Another logical question. How could you say his mother is punishable by stoning if you have relations with your mother? And your mother-in-law is streifa, not only because it's less severe. Why would there be two different punishments? Especially if it's more severe. Why would there be two different punishments? Afunami tamer, sorry. Vaidim beskila imay b'streifa. Amy imay b'streifa. His grandmother is by burning. Doesn't make sense. Vaid my he leichalkas ba bein ima le'aim ima. Afunami leitachlik bein aim ima le'aim imay. And another third question is, these are all basically the same questions, but the question basically is that if you want to learn exactly from your wife's situation, your wife's mother and grandmother have the same punishment. And here, your mother and your mother-in-law have, your mother and her mother, your grandmother, have different punishments. So one is that this doesn't make sense to give her a more severe punishment. She's further away from you. Doesn't make sense that there should be different punishments. And by your wife's mother, it's the same punishment. So any way you cut it, there's no way to say that if burning is more severe, there'd be a logic to say that you could learn the grandmother, your own grandmother, from your wife's grandmother. And Lamanda Amr Skila Chamura, what about the person who holds that stoning is more severe? So it's not so outrageous to downgrade the punishment by a grandmother. A mother is more severe because she gets stoning. Your grandmother's a less close relationship, will downgrade and give a lesser punishment of burning. They don't have the first question, but we have the other two questions, which is, why would we have different punishments if your wife doesn't have different punishments? If your wife's mother and grandmother have the same punishment, why would we have different punishments by your mother and her mother? So therefore, according to the opinion that it has to be exact, we can't learn. So basically, you wonder how things work in the circle. The Torah is very exact. The end of the day is, both according to Bai and both according to Rava, your own grandmother is not forbidden to you according to Torah. That's the end of it. That's the fact. The question is only why. According to Abaya, the reason is we have a verse. So it's clear. The Torah takes us out of our misery. The Torah says, Imchahi, only your mother is forbidden to you, not your grandmother. End of story. You don't have to understand it. That's the verse. Rava is using logic. The question is, and what is he using the logic so far? By the punishment. The difference in punishment separates that we can't also include the grandmother, your own grandmother, to learn from your own grandmother, because the punishments would be different. So you wonder what comes first. Is the punishment because that's the punishment and therefore the Torah can include the grandmother? Or is the punishment different for the exact reason so we shouldn't include the grandmother? That already is beyond my understanding. But let's go to the next case. The next case is Ulamanda Amar, but if you want to say that, no, you don't have to have exact. It's okay just to compare a little bit, which says to compare that the grandmother is forbidden, but the punishment could be different. There's no reason that you don't need the punishment to be exact. So why not have the same thing over here? The grandmother of your wife is forbidden, and her punishment is burning. And your mother's mother is forbidden, we learn also, and her punishment is stoning. So why can't we say that? That we learn a little bit, but we establish the way it was, meaning to say we keep the things that we want to keep, which would be the case of burning. So we still can't compare. Why? Mahi, when it comes to your wife's mother's mother, again, these are all, you have to understand something. You're the problem. Meaning, here we have a person. The Torah tells this person who you can and cannot have relationships with, full stop. You can't have relationships with this person. You can't have relationships with that. There's also forbidden relationships and forbidden marriage. There's certain people that you're not allowed to marry, and of course you shouldn't have relations outside of marriage. But you don't get stoned for having relations with that person, right? But there's also forbidden marriages and relationships, ervas, right? You're not allowed to have relationships with your mother, your daughter, your granddaughter. It doesn't make a difference if you're marrying her or not. So here he says like this: what about in the case where you want to learn about a little bit, only learn that it's forbidden but not the punishment? So the Gemara says, Mahi, when it comes to your wife, aim ima asura, her mother's forbidden to you. And you want to say afu nami aim ima, so too his mother's mother should be asura, forbidden to him. And we should, but we'll go after the way we'll go after the what we know already, means the previous case. Hasam who did b'sreifa, only by his wife's mother's mother is it punishable by burning. Aval hacha, but in our case, because we're comparing your own mother to your mother's mother, the punishment will be different with stoning. Just like we find by your own mother, that you're punishable by stoning, and therefore we'd say that we learn it's forbidden from your wife, but the punishment will be like your mother. So then seemingly that would be okay, and therefore we would have the conclusion would be your mother's forbidden to you. We know that just like your wife's mother's forbidden you. However, the punishment will be just like your mother, which would be stoning. So the manda imasreifa chamura, according to the opinion that holds that burning is a more severe punishment. A person may ask, we could ask, we're turning the page to 76a1. This is about what? Malihi, when it comes to your wife's mother's mother and mother, meaning the forbidden relationships that are connected to your wife that are forbidden to you. Shekain ima bisreifa, her mother, if you have relations with her own mother, you get burning. Tamer buhu she'imoi beskila. You could say no, but the question will be on a logical basis. Why should you say that your wife's grandmother should teach you about your own grandmother? Your wife's own mother is more severe than your own mother. Why? The proof is in the punishment. Your wife's mother is punished by burning, and burning is more severe. And your mother is only stoning, which is less severe. So if your wife has mothers forbidden to you with a more severe punishment, there's a logic to say that even her mother is forbidden to you. But if your mother, you get a less of a punishment, maybe your mother's mother is not forbidden to you at all. It means the punishment teaches us this, which again, why would your wife's mother be more forbidden to you than your own mother? Is another question. You have to, I mean, we could talk about it. I mean, there is an idea there where it's based on the relationship of your wife. We spoke about that last week. It means your wife is more connected to you, therefore her connections are more forbidden to you than your own parents, your own mother. I guess you could use based on the verse. I don't know if I'm talking from my own head. I don't know if there's a basis of what I'm saying, but based on the verse that says in Bereshis that once a person gets married, he leaves his mother's home. When you get married, you leave your mother's home. Your relationship becomes with your wife. Your wife is your other half. It doesn't say anywhere your mother is your other half. Your wife is your other half. Therefore, her relations are more forbidden to you, possibly, than your own relations. So therefore, if the mother's mother is the mother is punishable by burning, so it makes sense that her mother is also maybe punishable and also punishable by burning. But your mother is less related to you, less forbidden to you because it's a lesser punishment, it's stoning. Okay, but that's only according to the opinion that the burning is more severe. What about the opinion that burning is less severe? It means your mother's more forbidden to you because your mother gets punished by stoning, which would make sense to most people. Right? And another reason why, but we're first, according to the problem of burning is more severe. Another reason why logically we couldn't compare the cases. Right? Who kihi? You want to compare his relations, means his biological relations, his mother, to hers. Mahi loichalksa ba bein bita le'em ima. Afu like bein bita le'em ima. So another thing is that by him, there's another case. Your own wife, your own child, your daughter, or your either through marriage, it means your wife's and your daughter, or your daughter through rape, it is punishable by burning. And your wife's daughter, meaning if your wife brings in a relationship, is also punishable by burning. So your any one daughter, your wife's daughter, your own daughter is both burning. That's equal. So the Gemara says if burning is more severe, and you want to say, so then we're going, then if your own daughter is like your wife's daughter, which is burning, and her grandmother's also burning, and there's no difference, why would your grandmother be stoning? Okay, so we're going to other situations where there's no separations. It says, void, who he has to be like her. Mahi, just like she. There's no difference in punishment. Bein bita le'emima. The mother, the daughter, and the grandmother have the same punishment of burning. So you would just say, afu, so to him, there shouldn't be a difference. Boy, with his relations, bein bita, his own daughter, which is punishable by burning. Le'emima, if his mother's mother, which should be punishable by burning. But according to the opinion that says skila, stoning is more severe. So therefore you would say, okay, those are all lesser punishments, but your grandmother is more severe to you. We can't ask these questions because you could say that stoning is more severe. But you could say, but the other questions, the separation, the difference that we said before, that you can't, there's, so what would it be if skila, one second, if skila is more severe, so we have no proof to add the grandmother. Means why would we assume to give her a more severe punishment? We have no proof. There's no basis to give her more severe punishment. Means according to the opinion that says it has to be exact, so we can't do exact because the punishment is burning here, the punishment is stoning. According to the one that says doesn't have to be exact, we have no source to give her a punishment. We can't give her burning. What are you gonna do? Give her burning? There's no basis to give her burning because his mother is stoning. And what do you want to say? Give her stoning? Stoning is more severe. This is the little catch up on that. It says, hold on a second. This last one I have to check again. Just give me a second. No, that doesn't explain. But I mean, the art scroll I think says, if you look at footnote number 3, it says, even though the conclusion that that relations with one's mother's mother carries a penalty of burning is not unattainable according to the one who views stoning as a more severe penalty, because you could give the grandmother a lesser punishment. That conclusion nevertheless conflicts with the conclusion yielded by another method of deriving the penalty, another from prohibition of one's mother, which carries the stoning penalty, which method would also be considered placing the derivative in its own context, since there are two equally valid ways of deriving up the penalty for relations with one's mother's mother, and those two ways yield conflicting results. We must reject the initial derivation altogether. He learns, this is the Marshal, learns in Rashi, that basically because it's not exact, therefore we are not going to compare it. There's no, Rashi doesn't really explain it inside, but I guess that's the point. Okay, we're going to stop here, guys, because it's a short class and it's a difficult Gemara. The next piece is going to be to understand if the next one's going to be, I know this is maybe a bit of an uncomfortable Talmud, but this is the law. We're learning the law. We have to know the law. So this is all Torah. And Torah has to we learn it whether we understand it or not. So here he says, we want to know if your stepson's wife is forbidden to a person, and she's not. So it's fun, interesting enough. That's we're gonna go the other way. It means now we wanted to show how your wife's relationships are more severe to you. Your son's wife, means a person's daughter-in-law, is forbidden to him. But your stepson, meaning your wife brings in a son to a relationship that she had with another man, her first husband or what have you, but not your son. His wife, your stepson's wife, is not forbidden to you. I mean, obviously, while she's married, she's forbidden to you because of marriage, but she's not forbidden to you. It's not forbidden after, if let's say her husband passes away or divorces or what have you. I don't know if you're allowed to be married to her, if it's a shnia, if it's forbidden rabbinic, we'll see. Or definitely if you're not allowed, if you're allowed to be married to her while you're married to your wife, which would be, let's say you're married to your wife and you're allowed to have two wives, and your stepson gets married and then they get divorced or she passes away. Is it halachically allowed to be married to your wife and her ex-daughter-in-law? But we'll see. That's all the Gemara for next week, as complicated as it may sound. And hopefully, I think the Gemara going forward. Anyway, Elo and Israfim is a hard Gemara. This chapter is a hard Talmud, and I'm hoping that it gets. I think we passed the hardest part. We have one more little hard part, which is next week, which is the same idea to learn about your daughter-in-law. But once we pass that, I think it gets a little easier. All right, everyone. Laila Tov. Take care. See you, Bruce. See you, Howard.